Okay, thanks for joining. The purpose of this meeting is to talk about the Worldview essay and tips for writing it, tips for working with Peerceptiv, and making sure you're all set for those kinds of things. So we're going to talk about the Worldview essay, but ahead of that, I do want to share with you some important information that I don't know how well is being communicated to students. However, there at one point was a student hotline for mental health help, and that hotline is on the back of your student ID. That hotline is being phased out, and in replace of it is the Tellulus Health Student Support app. So I'm sharing this all with you so that you know about it, so you can share it with your friends. But there's this Tellulus Health Student Support app that you have 24/7 access to a professional counselor by phone or chat in multiple languages. And this is meant to provide you support when you most need it. It is Suicide Awareness and Prevention Week. And so I just want you all to know that you have support. I want you to know where to find it. With that, we'll move on and talk about the Worldview essay. So the first place that you'll find the Worldview essay, it's in Learning Module 4 under reflection number 1. Now, moving forward, the only place that you can access Peerceptiv is through this assignment right now. But in the future, there will be other assignments that happen in Peerceptiv. One thing you should write down and know: only access the assignment that you're trying to get to through the Canvas link. So let's say you're doing World Reflection 1 now, and in a few weeks, you're going to be doing World Reflection 2. Please click on the Canvas link for World Reflection number 2 to get to that in Peerceptiv. Do not click on the World Reflection number 1 link and then navigate down to the link at the bottom where it will take you to Peerceptiv, because it won't be able to pass the grade back correctly unless you access the assignment in Canvas. So this is the same rule for just about anything that sends you outside of Canvas that's linked. You need to access that assignment specifically as you try to complete it. So make sure that you load it and you access it from there. So I have a couple of pages that are designed to help explain the Worldview essay. And I gave them to you this week. So there's Worldview assignments explained, and there's Peerceptiv explained. So I highly recommend that you read through this. It talks about how the assignment is graded. It talks about how extra credit works. It gives you guidance, some of which I will talk about here. But it really is just a write out of a lot of what we're going to talk about here and some reminders. There's a video here in Peerceptiv of how Peerceptiv works. So if you want to know really what's happening, this video will help explain the Peerceptiv process and how everything works in Peerceptiv. So I highly recommend that you read these and watch these as you get started. So with that, when we're talking about the Worldview essay, the first thing I want you to know is there is a template. You should use the template. It is written for you, designed for you to succeed in this. You will do best if you use the template. There is a doc version of it, a docx version of it, and there's a Google Doc version of it. I've opened the Google Doc version of it here so that you can see it. With this Google Doc version, please note that you will not have the ability to edit this. You will have to go to File and create a copy for you to edit in your own Google Drive. I will not give you edit access. And if I get an email that asks for your edit access, I largely just delete them. Because I'm telling you now that you have to make a copy of this, because I can't have this being edited by students, because I use it multiple semesters. And if I shared it with you and Emma edited it and then Ariana tried to use it, then it would all look very wrong and different. So you'll have to make a copy. So talking about the template, use the template. Anything that's put in brackets is meant to be deleted. That is generally how I function and how I make my templates look and things that I give to you. So it says delete this section in brackets for your submission. Also, do not put your name on your worldview. Do not put it in your text on top of your page, anything like that. Do not put your name on it, because that will eliminate the double blind system that I'm using. And we don't want to do that. We want everyone's identity to be masked. so that you can write openly, write what you need to, and receive feedback in a blind system. So I know who everyone is. You don't need to put your name on it. So for example, let's look at these. So this first one, there's 3 to 4 prompts for each template. For this first template, we have 3 prompts. You just have to pick one. Just pick one that you really want to write on. I give you 3 for a variety of reasons, but I want you to pick the one that you're most interested in writing on and the one that you think you can succeed the best with that type of assignment. And by succeed, I mean, in this assignment, you're going to have to tell me how you formed your worldview and share personal experiences. And if there are personal experiences that you don't want to share, even in a double-blind system, then choose a different prompt. That's why there's multiple prompts. If there's a prompt that just doesn't speak to you, you don't feel like you have an experience with that, or don't feel like you have a strong worldview or could really write something, then pick a different prompt. That's why there's multiple prompts. So you'll look at the worldview. So let's scroll down and look at the other some of the other ones. Let's look at the second one. So this one, conserving biodiversity. I give you an explanation of the concept from the textbook. And then I reference all sorts of pages in the textbook about biodiversity. And then I ask you specific questions that are going to show up in italics. These are the questions you need to answer in the explain your worldview. So explain your worldview. So you're going to remove this underlined text and write what your worldview is. What is your answer to should we concentrate our conservation efforts on flagship species? What criteria should be used to determine which species deserve conservation? What do you think are the consequences of unchecked biodiversity loss? You are telling me what your worldview is. What is your opinion on this? There is no right or wrong worldview. I'll just make that very clear. That is not what you're being graded on. You are being graded on and scored on your ability to explain what your worldview is while incorporating course terms and defining them. So while you're explaining what your worldview is, you need to include 3 course terms into your worldview and define them. So highlight your course terms and define them. So you need to include 3 course terms and define them. So the course terms are in. Oh, see if I can do this. They're in the textbook. Sorry, I've got a filter on. They're in the textbook, in the glossary. So if you are in doubt, I would recommend that you check the course terms that you're using. So sometimes people think a term is a course term and it isn't actually. So make sure you check your course terms and you define them. Some students will open brackets and put the course definition from the textbook in those brackets. That's fine. Some students will just summarize the course definition, and that's fine too. Either way, but you need to incorporate course terms and you need to define course terms. Okay, so that's the what. You are being scored on your ability to explain your worldview with course terms and define them. And those course terms need to be used in context. They need to make sense in the context. If they don't make sense, then you will not earn as many points. I need to be able to read what this says and understand and believe and get the impression that you know what you're talking about and you know what that term means. Okay, the next part, and this is usually, if students are going to falter, this is usually what's going to happen. The next part is you need to explain how you formed your worldview. So this part is part B, reflection on how you formed your worldview. Remove this underlined statement and write your paragraph reflection on how you formed your worldview. Provide specific details for how you formed your worldview. This is how I was raised. This is what my religion teaches me. And this is what a class taught me are all very good starts, but they do not provide details. You need to provide details. If you took a class that influenced your worldview, tell me about the things that you read. Tell me about the activities that you did. Did you take a field trip? did your teacher assign extra work, or like give a really cool presentation that, or have you watch a documentary? You have to provide details. Like, it's not enough to say, I observed this in my hometown. My parents taught me this. This is what my religion teaches me. All of that is a great, great start, but you have to provide details. So the other thing that I will say about this is, if you're going to include a quote, I would really prefer you actually not, because that just adds lines of text. But do not quote something and not write about it. Like, if you absolutely have to include a quote, then just remember that that's not necessarily part of your reflection, that writing a quote isn't necessarily a reflection. Like, you need to tell me what that quote meant to you and how it informed your worldview. Like, you quote something as like, I read this in a class and it shaped my worldview because I had to write about it and I had to research it and all these different things. But don't tell me what your worldview is in the second paragraph. That is the common mistake. So the common mistake is students will start writing, I formed my worldview from a class that I taught or from a class that I took. And in this class, we learned about invasive species. And now I believe that invasive species, yeah, this, that, and the other. Do not write, I think, in my opinion, we should. All of those things are explanations of what your worldview is. Don't do that in the second paragraph. Do not explain what your worldview is in the second paragraph. Explain how you formed your worldview. You are describing specific experiences in your life, specific things that have happened, people you've involved with, places you've traveled, all of those different things, specific details about your life that have influenced how you shape, how you think about that particular thing. That is what we're after. It's very, very common to start slipping into explaining, this is what I believe. So my recommendation is to write it and then reread it and think, am I explaining what my worldview is, or am I explaining how I formed my worldview? And in the reflection, we are looking for how you formed your worldview. What were your life experiences? So the other thing I'll say about both sections is they need to be 6 lines of text. So 6 full lines of text. I will count the lines. And if, for example, let's say you write 10 lines of text in the reflection, but only 3 of them are actually reflective sentences and 7 sentences are re-explaining your worldview, then that will only count as 3 reflective sentences. So please keep in mind that you need to be explaining how you formed your worldview in the second one. And if there are details that you don't want to share, then please pick a different prompt. Okay. Okay. So, are there any questions? I only have 2 people in the room, but just ask that. Okay. Doesn't seem like that. So going back to the assignment, you have the assignment, the worldview explained, the template, which you need to look at and you need to read, the rubric, which we'll look at in a minute. I give you a strong example and a weak example, and I give you the rubric that is filled out for that strong example and that weak example. So read that to see how other people have written and how they got scored. Then I tell you about use the template to write this, and then submit your worldview as either a Word document or a PDF in Peerceptiv. When you're in Peerceptiv will ask you, you will upload it, and then it will ask you to confirm. You need to confirm and make sure that you have uploaded the correct thing. Sometimes the students will accidentally upload the template that's blank. Please don't do that. Please double check the thing that you're uploading. Okay. We've talked about the template, the rubric. Let's talk about the rubric, how this is going to be scored. So sorry. All right, so the first part, explanation of the worldview. Did the author explain their worldview for each question of the prompt without elaborating or further explaining the prompt? So sometimes students want to explain what their worldview is by giving me a textbook explanation of the issue. That's not what I'm looking for. I need you to explain what you believe, not what the thing is. So aside from defining the course terms, you shouldn't be giving me an explanation of what the thing is. So here, for example, 7 is the maximum points for this section. 7 clearly explains their worldview for the prompt. Explanation of their worldview is 6 standard length sentences or 6 lines of text. And aside from course definition, the author does not elaborate or further explain the issue in the prompt. That's what you're after. And you notice that it gets lower points after that. Unclear, unfocused, meandering explanation of the worldview of the prompt is a 3. You can see from there. So quality of the reflection, you can see detailed, specific and detailed reflection. 6 standard lengths of sentences is a 7. 6 is specific and detailed, but only 4 to 5 standard lengths of sentences are reflection, and then it goes down from there. Sometimes if we have a reflection is broad and generalized and no specific details or low quality reflection, that would be a 3. And then there's 2 points below that. So no reflections evidence, skipped, or all the text is an re-explanation of their worldview. So if you entirely re-explain your worldview, then you get a 1 on that. And note that this is a weight of 2, so that's heavier. It means it weighs more in the assignment. You have to correctly include 3 course terms and use them in context. And then you need to define those course terms. So just note that. So that's the rubric. I highly encourage you to review that as well. Got that. Okay. So what's going to happen is the worldview essay is due so you'll turn in the worldview essay, and then there's a grace period of 24 hours. And then the peer reviews start. So after the grace period is over, the peer review will start. And that's when students will peer review 3 of their peers' essays. And this is when we get to the peer review stage. And so I've given you guidance about effective, useful, actionable, and empathetic feedback. So feedback should be goal-oriented, prioritized, so giving a strength and an improvement. When you write out your feedback, make it actionable to help someone, hey, this is a specific thing that you could do, and be student friendly. So you're going to provide feedback based off of this rubric. So in Peerceptiv, you would read an essay from a peer, and then you decide, is their explanation of the worldview a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7? And you will do that for 3 different essays. And we'll tell you that you can do up to 3 extra. So it's required to do 3, and that's the base of the assignment, but you can do up to 3 extra worldview, read and score up to 3 extra ones. That would give you 9% extra credit. So it's 9% of the base points. So it'd be, in this case, 9% of 50. So it's 9% of the extra credit, or 9% of the points in the assignment. Let's see if there's anything else I want to explain. Okay. So you are responsible for submitting your original work, which is the writing that you're doing, and using a rubric to score your peers' work. I need to make this very, very, very clear. You are not grading each other. That is not what is happening. That is not how the system works. So my TA and I will go in and we will do what's called benchmark grading. And we take all of the data that comes to us from the scoring and we benchmark grade it, and that calibrates it against the grading curve. If you're very interested in all the details, the Peerceptiv video explains to more detail how that works. You will get 20 points for completing the assigned peer review. So if you do 3, you get 20% of the points, just flat out. 60% of your writing 60% of your grade comes from your writing based off of normalized weighted review or accuracy, and the benchmark grading, essentially us grading the quality of the writing that you completed. And then 20% is based off of the accuracy and quality of your reviews. So if you go in and you aren't paying attention and you just put in numbers for the peer reviews, then you're probably not going to have the most accurate of peer reviews. And this 20% of your points would probably be a little bit low. So keep those things in mind. You get extra credit. You can have extra credit. You can do up to 3 additional worldviews, and it's 3% per extra worldview that you read. I will say this. if you start an extra credit, you need to finish it because the system doesn't necessarily recognize an unfinished one. You can turn your let's see, if let's say things go off the rails and you don't turn in your essay this coming Monday you don't turn your essay in on time, then you have up until 24 hours before the end of the review deadline to turn it in. However, late penalty of 10% is applied. So just know that there's time. I need to cough, I'm sorry. So there's a grace period, meaning that the peer reviews won't start until 24 hours after that I've told you that it's the turn-in date is. So the turn-in date for turning in your worldview essay is Monday, and then there's a 24-hour grace period, so to allow for people that wanted or needed to turn it in late, and then the peer review starts. The other thing I want to point out is I'm going to pull up the calendar so you can all see this. In Peerceptiv, it will show you that the due dates look like they're on Tuesdays. The reason that is because I had to artificially inflate the due dates so that there was a grace period built in. So I don't want anyone to think because Peerceptiv says in the system, it says, oh, it's due on Tuesday, then I have up until Wednesday with a grace period. No, Tuesday is the grace period. It's just the way that I had to do it to make it work. So for example, the peer reviews in this case are due, or the world reflection is due on the 16th, and then the following week, you're going to have your peer reviews due. I do want to point out this isn't, to get you all on track and to make sure that, to try to avoid confusion later. Next week, when we're in week 5, you're going to have 2 assignments open in Peerceptiv. So please make sure that you just kind of keep that straight. There's going to be peer reviews to complete, but also the next week there's going to be an engagement essay. I'm calling it the TED Talk. So that will be a different submission. So by Monday the 23rd, you'll have both a new submission and peer reviews from their previous Worldview essay. Yeah. The last thing that I want to mention is that one thing that I noticed in the past with my students is that Peerceptiv doesn't have, it's harder for me to add something to the calendar for you all for the peer reviews. And so what I will do, see if it's already there. I think it's already there. Yeah, see what I'm going to do is I have this, oh, it's not there. So what I'm going to do is I will add a assignment that says Worldview Reflection number 1, peer reviews. And that way it will show up on your Canvas assignments or your Canvas calendar. And so it's just going to reference you back to this Worldview Reflection, but it will show up on your calendar of something that you need to do. Because students got confused because it didn't show up on the calendar and they'd forget to do the peer reviews. So the peer reviews will show up on your calendar, but that assignment will have 0 points because it's part of the Worldview essay. Okay. And I think that's all I have for you. Are there questions? No questions. Okay. Well, if there's no questions, I can give some more examples. So we'll say at 2:50, that about 30 minutes in, we started doing examples. Let's see. I'll show you what it looks like. You guys can't see it on this side, but this is what it looks like on my end. You'll see that the due date is set at September 16th, which is Monday, and there's a grace period associated with that. And the peer reviews are set at Tuesday, the 24th, which adds the grace period. So it will close. It's a hard close, the 24th. So, that said, I'm going to stop sharing for just 1 second, and I want to pull up something else to show you some examples of some things that I've noticed in the past that didn't go so well for students, and I want to help you avoid those pitfalls. 1 second, I just have to find the assignment. This student incorporated the course terms. Notice they say ecological footprint, which measures the biologically productive land and water it takes to sustain a person's life. Okay, so that's a definition. They defined all their course terms. And here they wrote their reflection. When I think back when I was younger, I cannot recall a time when I thought about how much of anything I was consuming and the waste I was generating. I really didn't have a clue about the Earth's natural resources could be entirely used up and not renewed until another's lifetime. It was only up until middle school that I started to become self-aware of my impacts of the environment and sustain my life. Truly, I was not helping to make our planet more sustainable. Instead, I was doing the opposite. When I learned that the Earth did not have infinite resources and non-renewable resources that could not be replenished quickly, I began to question the habits I had and I could do help to our planet and sustain us. So while they didn't talk specifically about an event, they are talking about introspection. They are talking about, hey, this was the process for how this happened. When I was young, I thought that when I was young, this was happening. And then when I got to middle school, I became more self-aware. And he said, I learned about the Earth did not have infinite resources. And they talked about reflecting on their actions. So that was a really good example. Let's look at another really good example. So this is orange. This would probably be an even better example. Yeah, let's look at this one. I formed my worldview on conserving biodiversity through my education and personal experiences. Growing up, I spent lots of time outdoors with my family, which gave me a deep appreciation for nature. My parents emphasized the importance of protecting the environment through methods like recycling and throwing out trash. I participated in various environmental programs during my years in high school, and I really learned about the impacts of human activities' decline in biodiversity. These experiences, and especially this assignment, reinforced my ideas. So they talk about their experience. They talk about their family. They give specific examples of how they formed their worldview. That is what we're after. So with that, that is what I have for you. And please make sure to say what your worldview is, define it with 3 course terms, check your course terms in the glossary, make sure your definitions are on point, and then describe how you formed your worldview, and reread your essay for clarity and to ensure that each section is addressing the points that we're after. So that's all I have for you. If you have questions, and I'm more than happy to stay, but that is what I have. I'll stop recording.